Welcome to the Aging Parent Playbook, the podcast that empowers adult children of aging parents to navigate the complexities of caregiving, family dynamics, and senior care with confidence. I'm Dr. Barbara Sparacino, a triple board certified psychiatrist and coach, here to guide you through real-world strategies and expert advice to help your loved ones age with dignity while protecting your own well-being. Whether you're new to caregiving or have been at it for years, this playbook is for you. Let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome back to the Aging Parent Playbook. I'm Dr. Barbara Sparacino, your host, and welcome, like I said. So one of the reasons why it is really important to work with me is because I can help you avoid and or minimize conflict and stress, right? And one of the things that in my experience has generated the most stress for families of aging parents is our legal issues, right? And let me give you an example of something that happened to one of my patients. Now, some of the details have been, changed to protect privacy, but basically what happened was there was a daughter whose parents were older, right? And, as our parents are want to do, they have different personalities, right? Even though as they age, they tend to get very similar in ways, they still maintain their independent personality. And dad was really good about having all the legal documents in place and ready. Mom, not so much. She was a little suspicious. She didn't want to call death, right, by having these discussions. So unfortunately, what ended up happening was that mom had a rather significant stroke where she suffered significant cognitive loss and was unable to really make good, well-reasoned decision for herself. And it is really important to talk about making good and well-reasoned decisions because that is the criteria for having capacity to make decisions for yourself, right? Because we can all look, in this country, we have the right to make bad decisions and people exert that right every day. And so medically, when we're talking about healthcare and whatnot, we want to make sure that their reasoning is sound. We don't have to agree with their ultimate decision, right? But we have to make sure that they're integrating and using the accurate information, right? And so what happened was after the stroke, mom wasn't able to really integrate the information. She just didn't want to do things because, and it wasn't logical. And so she didn't want to, there were some things that she didn't want to go to a rehab after her stroke to get care, right? But she wasn't able to go home independently either, right? And she was adamant that she was. And, not only was it going to be dangerous for her, but it was going to be a burden for the husband, who would then be primary caregiver in that situation. And so what ultimately happened was that the husband and the daughter had to go and petition for to have her deemed legally incompetent and to have guardianship over her, right? Because at this point, someone who does not have capacity cannot grant power of attorney. That has to be someone who makes a well-reasoned decision, right? So now you have to go before the court, and this is a rather arduous process. You have to hire an attorney. You have to hire several clinicians, often psychologists and psychiatrists, to assess the person and to say whether they meet the legal criteria for not being competent to make their own decisions. And then you have to go before a judge, right? And this is very stressful for everyone because mother is still sick, right? Still kind of, not in a good space. And now feeling angry and kind of distrustful of both the husband and the daughter. The husband and the daughter are feeling stressed and aggravated because mom's not making good decisions, worried because mom is not doing well, right? Had this stroke, and God forbid she has another stroke. And ultimately things kind of settle themselves out as they tend to, right? In life, things tend to settle down. But so much of this could have been, so much of this chaos and emotional burden could have been avoided. One of the things we talk about is that, difficult conversations are only made more difficult by postponing them. They are never alleviated by giving ourselves more time, because rarely do we think about good ways of moving forward. We just think of all the ways that we're going to trip and fall, right? And that's why working with me is I think imperative, because I can give you a good roadmap, give you cues on what to say and how to approach it, right? Having a perspective. Because just like with kids and monsters under the bed, the only way you can ever really convince a kid that there's no monsters under the bed is by showing them that there's nothing under the bed, right? And and that's what we can do with having these difficult conversations, right? By showing you having the difficult conversations is not the worst thing that can happen, right? There are things that are much more difficult than having these difficult conversations, right? The regret of not having had them, the regret of not having uh, kind of opened the door, right? Because I can't guarantee that your parent is going to be willing to concede all the things you want them to do, right? But yet having the discussion opens up trust, right? Opens up a flow of communication. Because what happens is sometimes, there's a lot of places to talk about parenting your parent, and I am not a fan of that verbiage because we are not parenting them. We are supporting them as they age. We are caregivers, but we will always be their children, right? And they will always have authority over their own lives, right? One of the things that's different with children is that, we parent them because they do not have authority over their lives. And yet we still hopefully are allowing, infusing them with a sense of agency, infusing them with a sense of self, right? That we ought to continue to do with our parents as we're caring for them, right? And sometimes, but we want to use the same kind of like, just do what I told you so, just because I'm telling you, right? And that's not fair, because even though our parents may have deficits as they age, they may get slower, they may have cognitive limitations or physical limitations, we should still treat them with kindness, right? Generosity, and value their humanity. And so one of the things that's going to be most of value to them is having these conversations and treating them like the adult they are, even if they are still experiencing some limitations. So and quite frankly, one of the simplest, you know, um, difficulties that I help folks explore are legal issues, because they're usually pretty concrete, right? It's a document, it's illegal, there's reasons why and reasons not to. And so this is one of the things I like to tackle first, right? To explore first in my 2-month program with folks, because I feel like it's something we can check off the box, right? It can say, okay, that's done, right? Because all the other things that I think are important to discuss, like relationships, caregiver, how to be a caregiver, and how to navigate your own emotional well-being, those aren't things that we can check off, right? Because those are ever evolving. But now that the holidays are coming, I think this is a really important time to really work on a script, right? And to figure out what your list of check boxes are, and to figure out how to make this a very productive holiday season in both enjoying your aging parent and making sure that you and your parent as a family are prepared for what's on the horizon. So please reach out, schedule a consultation. I would love to spend a half hour speaking with you about your needs and seeing how I can help you. And I look forward to next week and my next podcast. Take care.
So good. Oh my.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Aging Parent Playbook. I hope you found the information useful and empowering. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to share it with someone who could benefit from this playbook too. For more tips, resources, and details about my coaching program, The Aging Parent Plan, visit my website at theagingparentcoach.com. Until next time, remember, you don't have to navigate this journey alone. We're in this together. The content shared on the Aging Parent Playbook is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical, legal, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified professional regarding your specific situation. Listening to this podcast does not establish a doctor-patient relationship. Any opinions shared are my own and do not reflect those of any organization I'm affiliated with.